So I just wanted to give my opinion on the Xbox Game Showcase of 2024 because it is fantastic. Extremely well done. It is beyond me how good it was. So let's just kind of get into it. So first we have Call of Duty, Black Ops 6 or whatever the hell they're calling it, and it does actually look pretty good. And now we could finally, I can't believe they call it Black Ops 6 and not, something else like Cold War or whatever. They actually just call it number 6. And I haven't played a Call of Duty game since probably Cold War or Black Ops, because I don't know, I just never saw like a big improvement. But what's really fascinating about this new Call of Duty, and they kind of went more into the developer diary or whatever at the end of the show, is that they actually have omnidirectional movement. So now you can sprint any position, you can dive any position, you can move in all these new ways. And so it's that approach to addressing the fundamental movement, the fundamental mechanics of a game, that's the real innovation. And this might be the very first Call of Duty I might go back to and actually try in a very long time, because I've been very disinterested in the whole series in general. But this is the first time I've looked at a Call of Duty and thought, oh, I actually want to play this. So, even the Call of Duty this year is good. Call of Duty has kind of become like the yearly slice of pizza, and just how the recipe is tweaked. But here they've done something very exciting and very interesting. And again, they're kind of linked up to the Modern Warfare era. And so now they're kind of doing, what Modern Warfare Call of Duty 4 did. And I just find that so funny. They've met each other essentially in the middle, and so now we have modern era Treyarch Call of Duty. So it's really interesting. I also love the fact that they're doing a story where it's an internal organization, and the espionage within espionage. You're not just fighting the Russians or the Chinese or the Middle East or whatever. There actually is an organization within the US itself that is corrupt and needs to be taken out, and it's very, very interesting to see what they're doing. Oh, Doom: The Dark Ages. This looks so cool. This is actually beyond my greatest hopes. It kind of, Doom Eternal had ended with Doom guy in the coffin, who's kind of being put back to rest. And this one, they've said, well, they had this whole lore thing going with the new Doom, where he's the Doom Slayer, and he's this ancient evil entity that's been resurrected instead of just like a random space marine on a space station. And they've told us this, but we've never actually seen it. And so now we finally get they get to show us what this is actually like. And I went crazy for this aesthetic, because it's in between medieval and futuristic weaponry. And I love he shoots he revs up his shield like a friggin' chainsaw. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And yes, I don't care. It reminded me a lot of God of War, the new one, but it is so cool. So you have this shield and gun gameplay, and he has more melee weapons, and you definitely saw that with Eternal and the DLC in Eternal. They gave him a sword, they gave him a hammer, now he's a mace. You can finally use the mech. I thought you got to use the mech in the DLC because it kept showing it, but no. And he rides a dragon. This is everything I've wanted from Doom. So it has that dark medieval tone. His armor has been redesigned to reflect it. It is so smart and so well done. I cannot wait to play that. And Doom really has become my new Halo in terms of Xbox representation. It is my shooter experience on Xbox, and to see it being given so much love and attention is so great. And then we had State of Decay, whatever. I actually didn't really care about this. Next was the new Dragon Age Veilguard. And so, it's interesting how they advertise this game. I was never really a fan of the Dragon Ages from BioWare. I much prefer Mass Effect and Knights of the Old Republic, but I have tried Dragon Age, so I know what it's like. And I think what is really interesting about this game is that the way they're actually advertising it is via the characters. They're introducing all the characters, and the story doesn't really take a center point, which honestly is kind of the smart move to take, because I feel like a lot of the people playing playing the Dragon Age series are much more interested in the characters' relationships, building those relationships, seeing how they reflect on each other, and creating, the world from that perspective. So that was very interesting how they handled that. They even had Starfield DLC, and as we all know, Starfield is just an absolute pile of trash at this point. However, that being said, even this DLC looks kind of okay. It looks at least interesting in some way. It has some kind of design of these cybernetic things, holding onto the side of the trellises, and these sort of like spider mutant light things made of light, and ghosts, and they have like a spirituality thing, and they kind of very heavily maybe are borrowing from Dead Space, and they have this whole spiritual aspect of it. But I think that's absolutely fantastic, and it's very like the smart tone, like space horror. That's a right way to go, especially when you have a failing kind of game. I was kind of saying, you might as well just, if they're going to just do this where they just patch the game forever, all right, fine, go ahead. If No Man's Sky can patch in planet-to-planet flying, then certainly Bethesda can eventually. And so I think that's another thing to take away in general from this show, is that even the things that are probably games that I'm not going to play, or games that are probably might be bad, what I notice is that the art design, the direction for the technology and the designs for all the things we see are at least interesting. Even if I'm not going to play it, I can see this burgeoning overflowing sense of creativity that is just consistent throughout the entire show, and it's just insane to see that because it's so unexpected and so unprecedented. It was only a little while ago that Microsoft closed down Tango Gameworks, which made one of their best new exclusive IPs ever, which was Hi-Fi Rush. And I thought, okay, so no more games. And they bought all these studios are going to release a game, they're all going to die. But no, they're actually producing really interesting, good content. I'm shocked beyond belief. I woke up this morning thinking, it'll be another crappy show like the Summer Games Fest, where I saw maybe one thing I might want to play, but almost most things in this show at least looked interesting, or I did want to play them, which is amazing. And then we had this little skit for Fallout 76, which frankly I don't care for. Fallout has come from such a strange, weird past, from an isometric, a game to, Fallout 3, and then to this kind of MMO-ish kind of world. And again, I guess it's nice to see, but not really my thing. Oh yeah, you can play as a ghoul. I realized that was never actually an option in the previous games, even though it probably should have been. Oh, and so then they have this thing called Company 33, or the Outfit 33. This is really, really interesting. I don't know what the studio is behind it, but it takes place all in France. And, you have this girl that is painting a different number, and then everyone of that number, of that age, just disappears. And so she just Thanoses them out of oblivion, and they have to go and stop her, basically. And this is just so fascinating to me. Not only does the game look beautiful, the characters look beautiful, everything's stylized. However, the world and the music very much remind me of Nier, and it's this apocalyptic kind of, last mission, last-ditch effort to reach this final destination and destroy this sorceress before she wipes out all of humanity. And they have this kind of a little bit of a steampunk French kind of style. I'm not sure if it's entirely turn-based or an action game. It definitely seems turn-based with, inputs. But the tone, the style of this game is really fascinating, really interesting, and kind of a new IP that, I'm excited for this. This is what new IP should be. This really fascinating, weird world with a weird situation that's very relatable and very understandable, and then you have gameplay and beautiful graphics to back it up. Finally, where were these games so long ago? This Outfit Expedition 33 looks really good. I don't know if it'll be, a game I really get into, but it's something I'm very, very interested in. Oh yeah, and then they finally they showed us gameplay of the game South of Midnight, because when they first showed it off, there's some girl in a swamp, and it's like, okay, why should I care? But now she has this, you know, kind of guide kind of character, this, you know, swimming, talking fish. And, you know, it seems like they've really defined exactly what their animation style is going to be, which is kind of like this motion cap, like low FPS style, which is, you know, very unique and interesting. But they finally showed us gameplay from this game, and so it seems the main character has a series of grappling hooks or a sort of outfit like that, and I find it very, I guess, a lot more interesting as to what this game actually is. Instead of just giving us a bunch of Pixar-esque cinematics, it's actually a playable game. Probably not something I'm going to play, but at least they have a kind of a soul or a style, you know, they kind of talk with these thick Louisiana accents. It's at least something creative, you know, something that's at least different. Like, thank God, finally. Again, even though I'm probably not going to engage with it. Oh, and this shocked me a lot too. The enemy design is also very interesting. You have this asymmetrical, oblong, like cursed environmental being that's like, no, I don't know, metaphor for pollution or something. But, you know, that design is really interesting. Something I expect to see of more so Japanese designers. And what's more so is when she defeats it, the environment changes around her to indicate that nature has been healed by her actions. I love that trope in games, and I fell in love with it ever since I played Okami and how nature responded to your very presence. It's very cool. And so, again, like, maybe I will play this game. I don't know. You know, it's time will tell. And so, I guess for Blizzard, they released the new trailer for their latest expansion, which they kind of said, oh, is the end, or something, you know, sort of the end of the World of Warcraft. And I find it really interesting because, okay, so I mean, full disclosure, I've never been into World of Warcraft or Warcraft itself, so I don't know the severity or the, you know, the impact of it. But it does seem it's recapping every game. It has scenes from every CG trailer and, you know, recapping every expansion, and so on. I don't think they had Pandera in there for some reason. I can't imagine why. But yeah, it's interesting to see that. I mean, I can't help but think that this latest expansion, they're trying to win back their players that have gone over to Final Fantasy XIV, because 14 now kind of is restarting at Dawntrail, and so the tone of this entire trailer feels very much like a combination of Shadowbringers and Endwalker, where it's kind of like this is the end of the World of Warcraft universe. Like, it shows the world, literally, of Warcraft, the earth being torn asunder and almost being destroyed. And so it's this really interesting take where this is like a all or nothing sort of vibe. And so, again, at least, you know, who knows, maybe I'll get into World of Warcraft because of this, because I love FF14, but I'm really interested to see, again, something very interesting and creative, and for World of Warcraft to at least keep trying, you know? Ah, yes, the beautiful, beautiful remastering of Metal Gear Solid 3. This was really, really something. To see Snake in HD and I guess in the Unreal Engine, it's really impressive. I think I saw some different CQC moves, some different actions that he was able to take. Obviously, they've incorporated the Metal Gear Solid moveset and mechanics into 3. And yeah, this, I think this is going to be very, very successful, because this is, you know, as we all know, this is the most probably beloved, you know, Metal Gear Solid game. And to see it in this way, I think a lot more people are going to fall in with this absolute classic, which is absolutely wonderful to see. Again, I probably won't play this because I've already played it, you know, originally, but it's still very exciting to see how beautifully and how much love and attention to detail has been put into this game. And it looks really, really good. And Snake looks really good. That's another thing I would just say, that a lot of remasters and whatever, we kind of get, we always got the lighting wrong, but here it looks really good. And I think it's really funny that, you know, in the past we had that Pachinko Machine game where it had all these HD cutscenes, and everyone was super excited, and it turns out it was a non-game, and now we're finally getting that game from the Pachinko Machine, the game we thought we were getting years later. So that's very exciting. Very, very cool. Again, we have Rare is still hacking away at Sea of Thieves with a new DLC very. I guess it's funny they keep trying. I mean, and someone asked me because I have tried this game. What is it like? And I have to say the atmosphere and the water mechanics of the ship, they all feel really, really cool. And the game actually has quite a bit of atmosphere, but there's absolutely nothing to do. So I don't know. This game, after maybe 10 years of DLC, will be playable or decent, but as it stands right now, I can't really get into it. But yeah, again, this is just another piece they've added on that, again, maybe one day this game will be worth really getting into. And then they had this game called like Flintlock Pistol in the Kingdom of Whatever, and again, this is probably a game I'm not going to play just because it looks kind of more or less like every other game. But what I do appreciate about it is that at least it has a distinct vibe. The axe has a triangular design. There's like some kind of, angel thing with Babylonian face masks on it. The style and design of this game, regardless of whether or not I play it, looks really nice, and is at least something new and interesting. And honestly, if I'm perfectly being honest, it doesn't look like Fortnite, and I'm so sick, beyond sick, of seeing games that copy the Fortnite like color and visual palette and just try to make it this fun, quirky thing and don't make anything serious or meaningful or fascinating. I think this is one of the games that at least is trying. I'm not going to play it, but I might play its sequel, is kind of what I'm saying. Oh god, yes, and the cube helmet guy, even that, I love that design. That looks so cool. Again, it's something else where they're trying, at least. And so this was really unexpected too, a remake of Age of Mythology. I thought that's really, really cool. I've never played Age of Mythology, but I know it's one of these classic RTS games from the golden era, like Empire Earth and Age of Empires. And I don't know, I might actually get into this, or I might even go play the original. It just looks generally very fun. I mean, RTS games, for a while when they released, they had a very consistent level of quality. And just looking at this, I'm like, oh yeah, this looks pretty fun. I might do it. I'm not a huge RTS person, but, if I ever feel in the mood for one, this is the one I'd probably pick up next. Oh, and so this one really surprised me. It's really kind of maybe embarrassing. I didn't clue in this was Perfect Dark until like literally the logo popped up. Because when she took off her helmet, I didn't think that was Joanna Dark, because she had a very different hairstyle in Perfect Dark Zero, and it was all flared out. And here it's all kind of kept together, and I mean, she looks great, but I just didn't realize it was her. It's been so long. And outside of that, the other thing that really kind of confused me and pulled me for a loop is that the gameplay and actions look exactly like Mirror's Edge. The way she climbs the pole, the way she moves, the way she picks up a gun. I don't know if it's the same studios. I don't think Crystal Dynamics worked on Mirror's Edge. I don't know if I'm wrong on that, but it looks very similar. And even the technology in this game, her little scanner device, usually it's a rectangular thing, but here it's like a trapezoid. So again, even the design of the technology, the art direction, everything I'm seeing in this game show consistently is really interesting and different. It is at least doing something new, and like, thank God. And again, I thought this was Mirror's Edge for like the whole time. Oh, this is Mirror's Edge. When you look at the gameplay, when you look at the platforming, the guns, everything. And I guess maybe I should have clued in when they called her Agent whatever. But yeah, no, this was like a new, bold, interesting take on Perfect Dark. And quite honestly, I've never really been a fan of the original or Zero. But this looks kind of interesting. I'm really excited to see where this goes. And then we have Diablo 4 DLC, The Vessels of Hatred, and they gave a kind of viewer discretion warning at the beginning of this, because it is very pretty graphic, where she's kind of suspended in this thing, and she's half flesh, half like material, and her arms are all taken apart. It's kind of funny how gaming used to be for kids, and then it became for adults for a while, and then with M-rated games, and then kids started buying M-rated games, and but no, I would say that again, I'm not really into Diablo. I still have wanted to play Diablo 2 for a while, but again, I've never been interested in 3 or 4, but this is the first trailer where I thought cinematically it was done. This story was done and told very, very well. You really felt for the character in a very short amount of time. She expressed her feelings, and I love how they did. Like, you know, Diablo is like, oh, this edgy, the demon kind of game, but they have the devil here essentially, or the demon impersonating her mother, tearing apart her flesh, owning her contracts, sort of all the you know, Faustian kind of thing. I felt this was like a real tone shift to what I think Diablo should be, which is not just a game for mature gamers, but it's a game for dark gamers, and it was honestly very disturbing. And I just again appreciated that they went that hard while still remaining somewhat tasteful and within the tone of the game itself. And then we have Fable. I mean, I'll be fully honest. I've never liked the Fable series. I've never liked it because it's always been overly sarcastic and ironic and quirky and can't take itself seriously. But I know this is the first time I've actually kind of enjoyed a Fable trailer with Humphrey here, who is this, you know, like fat, disgruntled, apathetic kind of hero. And I love the fact that he's not just a throwaway. Sometimes they'll have these quirky characters up front. I mean, we still have the main girl, who frankly is not very good looking from the last trailer, and she's here. But what's interesting is that he's not a throwaway quirky character she interacts with, but he seems to be part of the story as well. And honestly, I'd rather play as a washed up, drunk, you know, out of tone hero, you know, than this chick who's trying to like be genuine. If you're going to go fully ironic, I might as well go almost full parody, you know, instead of just being slightly parody. You might as well go all the way. So again, I still don't like Fable, not a huge fan, but at least the character in this trailer, this is probably one of the better Fable trailers I've seen, honestly. And then we have this new hero shooter, and again, you know, hero shooters are hero shooters, but at least they had this thing where they had this gimmick with cards, and so they would do things like big head mode and like all these crazy things that you'd see in, like, you know, the extra parts of like an FPS. So again, I mean, if you're going to go and do like a fun, whatever, multiplayer focused hero shooter with a bunch of gimmicks and silly things, you know, you might as well go all out with these ridiculous, crazy things. I mean, he spawned in, you know, like a jungle there, and like all these weird, stupid things. I don't know, I just hits the right tone where it's like, yeah, if you're going to do weird, stupid things, don't give us weird, stupid characters, give us weird, stupid mechanics. And that's exactly what Fragpunk is doing, and I love that. This is definitely the most weird and oddest game show I've ever seen, because all the AAA stuff looks amazing, and the one indie game about this mouse was incredibly boring, and I almost like left. It was such a tone shift in boredom. I can't believe that it actually appeared here. And again, usually I'm interested in indie games, because indie games are where the original ideas come from. But here it's like a rehashed idea of, you know, friggin' crafting and, you know, depression quest. Oh, I'm sad, I'm a mouse. Feel sad for me. Look how cute I am. Please, please buy me. Ridiculous. And then we had another indie game where you have, again, this low FPS character thing gimmick going on. And this is basically just American teenager story, coming of age thing. This more or less is a movie to me, and at least the characters seem somewhat bearable and not completely definitely, I mean, the characters, despite being teenagers, are more mature than a lot of other characters that are released in AAA big budget games. At least it looks like something. It's not just a retelling of some other boring story. And Microsoft Flight Simulator, again, I don't care about Flight Simulator whatsoever, but what they did in this trailer was really interesting, because they added things like, you know, the commercial flight thing, search and rescue, other kind of game modes where you're not just flying around randomly, but you actually have an objective and a point and a purpose. And you know, that's so smart, because now it's not a simulator anymore. It's actually a game where you give a focused, small context limit to what you're doing. And so I'm like, again, I'm probably not going to play this. I really don't care. But thank God, finally, you've you know, they've woken up and they've actually added a gameplay to this game rather than being a simulator, which is just absolutely great. So yeah, you have the agricultural thing, you have like the airdrop thing, you have of the search and rescue like mini game. Like they're actually finally turning a simulator into a game is what I'm saying, and it looks impressive. It actually does look impressive. And then they had this thing for the Elder Scrolls Online that has been out for 10 years, and they're just doing this weird celebration, and they had a licensed song in here, and it was frankly kind of garbage. I really didn't enjoy it. It's just like, hey, we're still here, and we're also the reason why you're not getting Elder Scrolls 6 anytime soon, or at least 10 years ago. So yeah, this was very much one of those, oh yeah, this exists kind of thing. So this is probably the, you know. It's so funny. I saw this and I said, "Oh, this is Life is Strange," and I saw Max's face and I said, "Oh, okay. It's an all new supernatural murder mystery thing," and I thought it was something completely different. But no, then at the end of the game, it said Life is Strange, and I was like, "Oh, what the heck?" It's funny though. I'm really excited for this game because just the writing of the original Life is Strange was always on the border of incredibly overly emotional and interesting, and an interesting, like, story and everything, and on the other end it was about like the absolute stupidity of writing and of teenage girls and their motivations, and so I'm actually looking forward to this. And it's funny because it's more or less the same story where she's trying to save her best friend from dying, and instead of doing time travel, she's doing dimension travel, even though it's still Max Caulfield. I don't know, they just kind of redid the whole time travel thing and just gave her different powers, and it's like, fine, whatever. So again, I'm actually looking forward to this game, to have fun with it or laugh with it or whatever. But yeah, it's also interesting that the setting has changed. We're in a more northern climate than the West Coast or something. So yeah, no, this was pleasantly surprising, actually. I was actually happy to see this. Yes, in the Indiana Jones game. It looks really good. However, when they did that scene with, like, in the snow on the ship, that just went on for, like, maybe, I don't know, it felt like 10 minutes. It felt like way too long than it needed to be, and it was just, like, him confronting the bad guy and the bad guy taunting him, and then him getting away. I mean, it is great to see Indy again, and kind of, his energy, his tone and everything kind of return. And it feels, I don't know, the whole thing feels like a proper Indy movie. I wonder if Indy will be developed into more of a game franchise than a movie franchise. And that might be what people know him for in the future. But yeah, it seems to have the same beats and motifs of the other movies, and feels like an Indiana Jones game. Like, I'm astounded that no one has screwed up yet in this presentation. They're making an Indiana Jones game that looks like an Indiana Jones game. Most of it, okay, was, cutscenes, but near the end they finally showed a little bit of gameplay of him using his whip, attacking guys. It looked pretty cool. Oh yeah, and then we got another trailer for Deus Ex Machina, or Machina X or whatever. And again, we actually saw this yesterday, Summer's Game Fest, but it was still good to see because this looks like a really intense mech game. So even mech fans are eating good tonight. Like, there looks to be some very cool Gundam style designs, and not just that, but it's like incredibly fast, like super fast placed gameplay, which is a new thing. I don't know if this is going to be the Counter-Strike of mech games, but I like the idea and the sound of that. Oh yeah, and we have this new game too. I actually forget what the heck this is, but it looks really cool. Again, we have, there's been a lot of games based on Asian mythology, Asian settings, and so again, we have another sort of, more so Japanese mythological action game. So again, it's kind of like a thing between Ghost of Tsushima, and she has this magical arm thing, and so she looks like a cool protagonist, looks like a cool action game, really great enemy designs, really good motion and gameplay. So again, like, sort of the Sekiro or whatever, but with the same pacing and just, a different tone that they're going for. Either way, this looks like another great action game. I'm glad it's part of the collection here. Oh yeah, and then we have this game, which is like, I don't know, from Obsidian, or based on Pillars of Eternity or something, and it uses very much the sort of Skyrim-esque gameplay. So it's a little bit dated in terms of it's not very innovative of how it works, but it does seem to at least have a good style and motion and tone about it. And again, this is something that I probably won't play, but at least they have like different colored, you know, like races, and they have a little space thing, and the designs of the weapons are at least somewhat interesting. And again, they're doing another kind of high fantasy adventure, so you know, all's good there. Oh, and then we had Atomic Atom Falls or something. This was really interesting, and I'm very confused and not quite sure, because I know there was this project recently for Fallout London where a bunch of lads had gotten together and had basically created you know, a Fallout simulator, but for, you know, London, and it looked really, really good. And I can't tell if this is actually that game, but just revamped and rebranded to avoid copyright. But it looks more or less the same kind of idea. Again, that you were exploring. Basically, this is basically Fallout UK, essentially. Ah, yes, and we finally get new gameplay of Assassin's Creed Shadows. And honestly, when this trailer first came, I thought, oh, this is another Tenchu game or some kind of other, you know, assassin game. And then very slowly I realized, oh, right, this is Assassin's Creed. I completely forgot about this trailer that was revealed a while ago. And so the ninja gameplay looks really, really good. There's a lot of really neat designs and acrobatics and style, and she even has a hidden blade. It looks good. I'll admit. I've kind of abandoned the Assassin's Creed franchise ever since they became RPGs, but I don't know. I might give this one a try if it's on Game Pass. This is interesting. Finally, we have Stalker 2. It's finally coming around. I think people were making a joke that the first guy you saw looked like Zelensky or something. It's also very good, and I think I appreciate it that they keep the original, you know, Ukrainian voices and just put in subtitles. I think it's also interesting that one character's named Faust. I remember playing the original Stalker quite some time ago and didn't get very far in it because I don't know, I was stuck on the save and I ran out of ammo. But yeah, no, this looks good. This looks like the game that Stalker wanted to be 10 years ago. So, I mean, it definitely isn't quite as gloomy. Who knows when we finally get into the game and get into the atmosphere. But again, from what I've seen, from the, you know, the normal gun function to the supernatural entities you're fighting to throwing the screws and everything, it all looks very cool and very good, and I'm excited for this one. I get another game I'm very excited for. Oh god, and the reloads are really smooth too. I don't know why. I've seen reloads millions of times, but here they seem kind of nifty. I also have to point out that it's good they're not discontinuing their physical disc box yet. Yes, and to cap off the final trailer, I love this. They had used a green aesthetic for all of their reveals, but for the last one they used red for Gears of War E-Day. Oh my god. At first I thought this was the Pendulum Wars because of course Marcus has a bayonet on his rifle, and so I was a little bit confused. But yeah, this is definitely after the Pendulum Wars, but right at E-Day basically. And so we get to finally find out what was, you know, the history of Marcus. I don't really know or remember why he was in prison. I know he disobeyed orders or something, or, you know, did something for his father. But essentially it's kind of cool that, you know, we had a really difficult ending with Gears 5, where essentially, you know, you had this choice between these two characters that had to die, and it's like, okay, well, how are they going to do this in the sequel? Who's going to be alive? And so instead they've kind of put that on the table, and they said, oh, we're going back to basics. We're going back to Gears of War 1, or that kind of aesthetic. So now we have Marcus back and Dom back, and so I guess we're kind of going to see how they met, how they developed that relationship, and also this era of Gears that we never got to see. So I think honestly it's good. I'm really excited for this, that we're kind of going back, and oh my god, Marcus's voice is so iconic. I'm so glad to hear it again. And what I love about this trailer is in this particular scene, they're playing, you know, a version of Mad World from the original trailer, which everyone remembers it from. But yeah, this was, you know, They opened up with their best, you know, Doom Eternal, and they closed with one of their strongest IPs, Gears of War. It was a smackdown from beginning to end. One of the best Xbox showcases I've ever seen. One of the best game shows I've ever seen, where everything was either something I was at least interested in, maybe not playing, but at least interested in and appreciated creatively, or something that I did want to play. The other thing I just wanted to also point out that was very funny is that usually after a game it would say, you know, on Game Pass day one. I thought, oh, I'm going to expire my Game Pass and when I get a PS5, but I guess I'm giving my Game Pass because every single game in this trailer is like coming to Game Pass day one, and they are all things I really want to play and look really good. I cannot stress enough how impressed I was with this show. Yeah, I've never seen something so consistently good and flow. Okay, there were some snoozers in there for sure, but as soon the next game immediately picked up the pacing, and you were just constantly waiting to see the new ideas. And that's what I think I really appreciate about these game shows, is that it's the new ideas that emerge, the new concepts, the new mechanics that activates my brain. And then they had this little bit here at the end with Treyarch, which actually again was very interesting because, as I mentioned at the beginning, they completely changed movement, basic movement in a Call of Duty game, from omnidirectional movement. Zombies is back, and they really didn't say anything about that, which is a little bit disappointing. They just, hey, it's back. They said, EXP and whatever prestige is like innovative, but it sounds more or less the same. Who cares? But yeah, I'm actually interested a little bit in the setting and the whole conspiracy story. Again, this is the first Call of Duty I've seen in a while I might get back into. But yeah, overall, the show, fantastic. I don't have anything else to say. I hope you're all as excited as me for the future of gaming, but we are so back, and I'm so happy to say that. Anyway, guys, I think with all that being said, I will see you later. Goodbye.